Nigeria appears to be learning from developments in other countries hard hit by third wave of COVID-19. Relevant authorities have taken necessary steps to prevent the wave from reaching the country, especially the likes of the Delta variant, killing thousands of people in countries like India, Brazil, Turkey, and lately South Africa. Now, travel restrictions have been imposed on these countries to prevent travelers from coming in with it. In spite of all these, sadly, on Thursday, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control (NCDC) confirmed that the highly transmissible COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2 they call it, Delta variant has managed to find its way into the country. According to the NCDC, the variant was detected in a traveler to Nigeria, following the routine travel test required of all international travelers and genomic sequencing at the NCDC National Reference Laboratory, Abuja. But is this the only case of the deadly Delta variant in the country? How much risk does this development pose to the citizens? And what measures are the relevant authorities taking to mitigate possible spread? Well, we're about to find out on Nigeria Today. Welcome to the program. I am Victor Azu. With me to discuss the emerging case of COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2 Delta variant in Nigeria is the Incident Manager, National COVID-19 Response Center of the Presidential Task Force, Dr. Mukhtar Mohammed. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Let's begin by asking, Delta variant is regarded by the World Health Organization as a variant of concern. But how is it different from the already existing variants in the country before now?
Thank you very much. You know, we have been talking about the different variants of COVID-19 globally. Apart from the wild type, which is the one that was initially, transmitted from China to many other parts of the world, the virus continues to undergo mutation. It changes its forms. And then you have variants that develop which can be more transmissible and they can cause more severe illness. So the Delta variant, of all the variants that are known today of COVID-19, it is the one that has the highest transmission rate, meaning that if it appears in a community or in a society, within a very short period of time, it will spread and it will dominate all other strains that are circulating.
What about severity?
It also causes more disease, it causes more hospitalization, and even it causes more death. Based on what we have seen happening in Southeast Asia, in India, and some other countries, we know that the Delta strain is actually very virulent, and it also has a higher rate of mortality.
All right, thank you very much indeed for your opening salvo. Now, the variant is said to be detected in over 90 countries and is expected to spread to more countries. How exposed is Nigeria in all of this to this disease, especially due to the latest development?
So in all the efforts, what we do is we try to reduce the risk of getting infected. We try to reduce the risk of importation of the virus, and we also try to mitigate the risk when it happens. So we know that we cannot eliminate, the arrival of this virus. We can only delay it. And I think that is what we have done. If you look at it, it started appearing about 2-3 months ago, in many parts of the world. And we have intensified our surveillance system at the airport. We have intensified screening and testing, and including identifying certain countries that we feel that these variants are more prevalent, designating them as countries of restriction. And so, yes, certainly, there is the fear that it will enter. Finally now, we have confirmed, if you recall, I think in November last year, there was a mention that probably we had that variant in the country. But fortunately for us, when it was done again, it was realized that it is not the Delta variant. So now we have found this case now in Nigeria. The sequencing was done on Thursday, but actually the virus has been there perhaps in the last 3 months, because these are old samples that have tested positive, that are gradually being taken and having them tested for this genomic sequencing to identify the type of variants.
Okay, let's ask again. The NCDC reported that it was found in a traveler. Can you shed more light on where this person came in from? Of course, this becomes necessary for guidance of Nigerians, perhaps. So
what we need to understand is that the Delta variant did not enter into this country yesterday or even this week or last week.
Okay.
The passenger traveled into this country about 2 months ago.
Oh.
And the test that was done that was positive is also at least 2 months old. So it is the sequencing that was done last week, and yesterday it was confirmed that yes, there was indeed a Delta variant. So this has implications in the sense that the person who had arrived probably has gone into the community, mingled with other people, and perhaps spread that virus. The second chance is that we picked only one of these samples and tested. Now, could there be other Delta variants already among the positive samples that we have? And that is why NCDC is intensifying this genomic sequencing to be able to identify the variants that are already circulating in Nigeria. So the fact that we have seen it now, it actually means that it is already in circulation.
Is there cause for alarm?
Absolutely. Based on what we have seen in other parts of the globe and the knowledge we have about the transmission risk and also the virulence of this disease, high hospitalization and also high mortality, it really calls for concern, especially at this time where Nigerians have completely lowered their guards, where we have gatherings, public gatherings happening everywhere, where people do not bother to use the protection measures that are known to protect against this virus, using face mask, sanitizing your hands, and avoiding congregations.
Now, I can understand if you don't want to talk so much about about the identity of this sample that you have detected this variant in. But is the NCDC or perhaps the PSC doing anything about contact tracing at the moment, trying to see how far this has gone and what can be done to mitigate spread?
Yeah, certainly. I had a meeting with Lagos State where that case was found this afternoon. And actually they are doing a lot to try to understand what happened. They are intensifying their contact tracing around the area to identify people who probably have come into contact. But we're talking about 2 months ago. So that is really, a long time. And what we are doing now is to actually try to sensitize people that COVID is not yet over, that the identification of this strain does not mean that it's only one person that is positive. There are a possibility of many other cases that are already in existence that have not been detected, and that even among the positive cases that have recovered probably now or were hospitalized or discharged or died, it's possible that some of them could have had that same variant.
Could it be responsible for a seemingly increasing number of cases at this time?
Well, certainly it is linked, because it's not only in Nigeria, but we've seen all over Africa. Particularly in Southern Africa. We've seen South Africa, Zambia, Zimbabwe. We've seen cases rising in Lesotho. We've seen cases also rising in DRC, in Ethiopia, in East Africa. We have now seen, even in West Africa, that Sierra Leone and Liberia are also showing spikes of third wave. So, and from even our own data, what we have seen now is that certainly numbers are rising in Lagos. You recall in the last few weeks, we've been recording only 20-25 number of cases per day. There were even days that we went with 0 cases. But in the last 3-4 days, we've been recording above 100 cases in Lagos alone. So Lagos is our barometer. Lagos tells us what is happening in the country. Of all the passengers that come into Nigeria, over 70% of the passengers come through Mukhtar Mohammed International Airport. So we need to safeguard Lagos, because if we save Lagos, we are likely going to save most of Nigeria. Second, it is followed by Abuja, and we've seen also the number of cases rising in Abuja. We've seen hospitalization. For a long time, in the FCT, there were no people in the isolation facilities. Now we have started to record people going into isolation facilities, and even we've recorded a death.
So what is being done differently in Lagos as we speak?
So certainly, the key to containing this epidemic is actually getting the people to understand and follow the protocol. 2 things. Number 1 is safety and protection of individuals and families and communities, which is through the known interventions that we know are working. The second one is vaccination, to try to vaccinate as many people as we can within the shortest possible time. Okay. Now that we don't have vaccines, we just have to fall back on our earlier plan, which is to intensify the prevention measures, to ensure that people have the knowledge, and at a time when fake news is circulating, there are a lot of conspiracies, as we have seen lately. People need to reject that and work with knowledge and science and facts.
All right, there's certainly a lot more to talk about, but we have to take a breather at this time, just so we can take an important message. Nigeria Today will return, and this conversation isn't over yet. Please don't go away. You're welcome back to Nigeria Today, and if you've just tuned in, I have been discussing the Delta variant of COVID-19, which has just found its way into the country, with Dr. Mukhtar Mohammed, Incident Manager, National COVID-19 Response Center of the Presidential Task Force. Now, Doc, is testing for this new variant just normal, or is it as complicated as the variant itself?
So there are 2 stages to test it. The first test is to detect whether you are infected with COVID-19 without knowing which type of variant is there. Now, to do this testing for variant, you have to do what is called genomic sequencing. This is a far advanced and very elaborate method of testing. They have to sequence every part of the DNA, the different proteins, and identify, how it looks like. This is not something that is common in this country. When we started, I think there was only 1 center in this country that was doing that, but at least now we have about 3 centers, including the National Reference Laboratory of the NCDC, that are doing it. The testing takes time, and therefore it is very slow. But we are certainly determined to continue to sequence every positive case of COVID that we have in the country.
But if we have just three centers in the entire country with 200 million population, so estimated, to test this, are we prepared for this variant?
So, the detection or testing is one thing. Testing helps you to identify whether someone is positive, and of course doing the genomic sequencing helps you to identify the virus. Now, if you are doing the genomic sequencing, the sequencing itself does not help you in the fight against the disease directly. It only tells you that these are the type of variants that you are dealing with. However, the prevention methods are the same, whether what you have is alpha variant or the beta variant or the delta or gamma or whatever variant, the prevention methods are the same. The vaccination is also the same, because most of the vaccines that are available today are found to be effective against most of the variants that are in the. So what the sequencing helps us to do is to know what type of the virus we are dealing with, and especially this delta, since we know that it has higher transmission, it has more virulence, so that we can prepare ourselves better and put all the things that need to be put in place to ensure that we mitigate the impact of this pandemic.
So if you are to take a straight shot at this, we are not prepared for this Delta variant as it is today.
So we won't say we are not prepared. Our preparation is in a continuous state. You will never say that you are 100% ready for everything. And the preparations we have taken into place since the last 2 months, have helped us to actually delay the introduction of this virus into our society. We have strengthened our surveillance at the airports. We have looked at all the international airports, Mukhtar Mohammed, Kano Airport, Malamini Kano, Nnamdi Azikiwe, and also Port Harcourt, and Enugu, which also is good. So we have recruited surge staff. These are ad hoc staff who will help us, medical staff who will help us to screen passengers as they come into the country. We have instituted the mandatory quarantine protocol, which allows every passenger who arrives from these countries that are restricted, for now, Brazil, India, Turkey, and South Africa, to go into a mandatory quarantine of 7 days. The logic is that within that 7 days, even if your test result that you came into the country is negative, you might have zero converted within that period and will pick if you are positive. That prevents us from allowing you to go into the community and then spread the disease, and it's only after 7 days that will now determine that you are positive. So these are some of the measures. Secondly, we have also worked with the states, particularly in these states where we have these international airports, to intensify contact tracing. We have passengers who arrive who isolate at home. We have intensified our effort to make sure that their test on day 7 is done. And if we do that test, for each one that is tested positive, we make sure that we test the family members, and we also trace, contact trace all the persons that this passenger has come into contact with, and we have them tested. So these are curtailment measures. Like I said, they are meant to reduce the risk. We cannot eliminate the risk completely, and it will continue to delay. However, there is room for improvement, and we are working with the state governments, with our religious leaders and traditional leaders, to ensure that the public is fully aware and brace up.
Cooperating?
Well, I will say that to a large extent there is a lot of cooperation from the strategic leadership. Yesterday we had a meeting with the subcommittee of the Governors Forum. You'll be surprised, to know that up to 6 governors were there, including the FCT minister, and we participate in these meetings. We discuss what is happening, what strategies we need to adopt. So certainly from the leadership side, we are getting the cooperation that is required. What is left now is for the public, to adhere to these regulations and to continue to work with fact that is being rolled out by authorities.
All right. Now, I do know that some Nigerians have taken up to the 2nd dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. I'm not sure what the numbers are now, and I'm not even sure if the vaccines are still remaining. But are these people in this category, those who have taken their 2nd dose of the vaccine, are they immune from the Delta variant? No.
So the vaccination for COVID-19, it does not protect you against getting infected. Okay. It does not even prevent you from giving someone else that infection. What it prevents you from is getting severe illness. So it prevents you from getting hospitalized. So the fact that I have taken the 2 doses of vaccination does not mean that I cannot be infected with COVID-19. Now, that is something that is peculiar, to the vaccination process. And that is why we keep saying that even if you have taken the vaccination, try to use mask. Because in Nigeria now, the population that has been vaccinated is just less than 1%. So unless we are able to vaccinate at least 60 to 70% of our population, that's when we will be confident to say that yes, now we can relax our rules. Now people who have been vaccinated can congregate in large numbers. People who are vaccinated can now drop wearing masks and other ease measures. But as long as we have not vaccinated a greater proportion of our population, the chances are that the infection will continue to go around. However, those who are vaccinated are unlikely to come down with severe illness or be hospitalized.
Where are we precisely with the numbers now?
So we have vaccinated, we have received about 4.1 million doses of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine in the country. And so far we have vaccinated over 2 million people with 2 doses. So I will say that the vaccine is about to finish, or it has finished. What may be remaining is just a small stock. However, what is good is that at least of the 4 million doses that we have been assured that the vaccine has not expired and that Nigerians have taken all of these vaccines. So at least we have about 2 million people who have been vaccinated now in the country.
Again, what specific measures is the task force on COVID-19 or steering committee now taking to ensure that the country does not find itself at crossroads because of this Delta variant?
So certainly, the most important thing is propagating the information, providing awareness, and also getting the public to comply. Compliance has been an issue, and also enforcement. Lately, with what is happening in Lagos, like I told you, Lagos, Abuja, Kaduna, Plateau are our priority states. We have intensified our campaign, and we have discussed with the authorities that we need to commence implementation of full compliance and also perhaps taking measures against people who are not compliant. At this point, it's important. We have so much relaxed that our markets are fully opened. Our supermarkets, shopping malls are all opened. Hotels are operating fully. Our transportation system is operating at its full capacity, both the airports, road transport, and also the rail transportation. Now is the time to bring these measures to ensure that people comply to this protocol. As we go in the next 1 week or 2, we'll also be having the Eid al-Kabir, which is the Salah celebration. Again, we are calling on our authorities, our religious leaders and traditional leaders, not to relax completely. We still have COVID around, and the presence of this Delta virus is really a cause for concern for people to brace up and continue to bear with the restrictions and the guidelines that are in place, so that we save ourselves, we save our communities, and we also save our country.
Now, on the last note, I have a few questions for this on a general note. You might want to also consider it, your closing remarks. Is Nigeria experiencing an increase in COVID-19 cases? Say if we go by the last few weeks, the experience of the last few weeks.
Certainly, we are seeing increase in the number of cases. We have seen Lagos reporting over 100 cases. We've seen FCT reporting close to 20 cases per day now. And Lagos and Abuja are the key cities, because they receive almost 95% of all international travelers into the country.
Right, Dr. Mukhtar Mohammed, Incident Manager, National COVID-19 Response Center of the Presidential Task Force, or Presidential Steering Committee on COVID-19. Thank you for your time and expertise on the program. It's much appreciated.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Nigeria Today is live every weekday at 7:30 in the evening. You can also watch this and other editions of the program on www.youtube.com/NTA News 24 Hub. My name is Victor Azo. Thanks for your company.